Hey there, welcome to episode 135 of the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program. I am your host, Managing Director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, Dan Hugo, recording this at 9:08 a.m. Pacific Time on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. We release episodes on Tuesdays, perfect timing. Today's topic, Project ACT meets Hacktoberfest. Hacktoberfest is coming up as usual, October of 2025, about 2 weeks away. Why not start talking about it now? If you're not aware of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, and if you've never heard the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program, well, you've come to the right place. The Innovate for Vegas Foundation was refounded in June of 2022 as the Code for Vegas Foundation. Our purpose statement is to enable and encourage ideation, innovation, and implementation to make our communities better. A civic volunteer organization aimed, as that purpose suggests, at community elevation. Not just code, though. When we renamed to Innovate for Vegas Foundation, it was partially to be more inclusive of people who are not coders, but who do want to participate in community elevation activities. Sounds good to me. The Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program is a audio program, of course, about our initiatives, our goals, our methods, progress, etc., etc. Episode 135, there must be stuff to talk about. Today, it's Project ACT meets Hacktoberfest. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate our episode description. You are able to find it in a few different places now, so hopefully that's working out. Within the episode description, the show notes, including a one-sentence summary, which I will read, and the links for today's episode. The usual 4 plus 3 for today's particular episode. So let's get started so we can get finished on this lovely Tuesday morning. The summary of today's episode: another year, another Hacktoberfest, this time with some changes on their end and some chaos in the world. It's a good time to relax and work on some open source stuff. Seems like a good time to put Project ACT out there. The links for today's episode: Innovate for Vegas. I have it as activity. I should probably change that to initiatives. I'll leave it as activity for now. I'll think about it. Innovateforvegas.org. Innovate, F-O-R, Vegas, no spaces or punctuation. Innovateforvegas, period, O-R-G. There you will find information about our various initiatives and component projects, our gathering calendar for our weekly, usually weekly, this week canceled for schedule, but weekly initiative meetups on Mondays as I'm recording this now. Always can move around. But for some time now, Mondays, we talk about initiatives, anyone who would want to join an initiative or a component project and so on. Kind of an onboarding for the participation. And then Tuesdays, we have our office hours to talk about more structural, practical matters of forming an organization, civic volunteerism, kind of an introduction to the what's and the how's and the who's and whatnot, but from a kind of a 50,000 foot level. And as I'm speaking right now, we're probably going to make the Monday meeting a Hacktoberfest meetup at the same time, right? So combine and talk about anything, especially about Project ACT. Speaking of, the Innovate for Vegas Foundation website, Innovate for Vegas, same rules, F-O-R, no punctuation. Innovate for Vegas, period, Foundation. That's sort of the business side. The Innovate for Vegas Foundation is a Nevada nonprofit corporation and a determined 501c3. We received our determination in October of 2022. So we're a 501c3 public charity, Nevada Nonprofit Corporation. So all the business details are found on our foundation website, keeping our activity website oriented more towards activities, what we're doing. ProjectAct.info, that's project hyphen, the hyphen is a key next to the 0 on most keyboards. Project ACT, A-C-T, period, info. That's where you can go to learn more about Project ACT, the autonomous cohort tessellation. A tessellation is like a mosaic, a tile wall, perhaps, and it's oriented towards discovery of cohorts and their efforts. It doesn't have to be civic volunteers. That's where it started, but it could be applied in a lot of different ways, as we'll talk about today. And autonomous cohorts are off on their own. They don't have to be a part of anything formally. This is very bottom up, opt-in, etc. So discovery to enable and encourage connection, communication, and collaboration between cohorts. Agileforvolunteers.org, that's our own sort of project management methodology based on the original Agile from 20 some years ago. Not geared only for programmers as the original Agile was, created by and for programmers. Agile for Volunteers is for anyone working on any type of project, especially on a volunteer basis. That sounds like a lot, and it kind of is. Agile for Volunteers, no punctuation, no spaces. Agile, FOR volunteers.org for more information there. Both Project Act and Agile for Volunteers are very much initiatives in progress. So, in fact, I need to make the Project Act website look nicer. So there's more information there for the first-time visitor, and then get the repos kind of ready to go for Hacktoberfest, but that's a different episode. The links for today's episode, Hacktoberfest home is at Hacktoberfest. That's spelled like it sounds, the Hacktoberfest, Hacktoberfest, Hacktoberfest.com. Hacktoberfest.com website has all the information about the companies sponsoring, partnering, the how to get started. Of course, you need to sign up there if you're going to participate for the merch, the swag, the badges, and so on. The location of projects to work on is a different story. Some of that is detailed there as well. So do check that out if you are the slightest bit interested. And by the way, Hacktoberfest and all open source contribution and participation is not limited to code, although it sure seems that way. There's a link there about, there's a GitHub page, a GitHub article that they link to about contributing to open source in ways other than writing code. It could be in a variety of ways. If I can editorialize, I think they could do a better job of emphasizing that, but we are where we are. There are two examples here that I think they are fine pieces of work, and I am not in any way denigrating them, but they are examples of what Project Act is not trying to accomplish. So one is helpwanted.dev, helpwanted, one word, helpwanted, period, DEV, and GitHub repos is GitHub repos, GITHUB, GitHub repos, REPOS, that stands for repositories. So GitHub repos.online. It's a tool. Both Help Wanted and GitHub repos are search tools to help people find things that they might want to contribute to. Sounds good, right? Well, that's something we'll talk about today. And again, not picking on those two projects. They're just examples of what's out there. Sorry, I'm doing all real-time editing here. So not denigrating, not diminishing those projects. They are one way to go. So by way of comparison and contrasting, I've included them here. And there are others. I've only picked two that I was familiar with somewhat recently. So that's where we are. So let's get started so we can get finished. We have a lot of work to do. So first, let's get settled into the new year. It's a new thing. I was poking around. I don't mean new year like January. I mean the new year for Hacktoberfest 2025. I was poking around the Hacktoberfest Discord, and it really had sort of fallen by the wayside, to be honest, with a lot of scammy posts, crypto and get rich quick schemes, a lot of click here if you're the first 100 or whatever. And it's a little dubious. But with some people looking for participation information and suggestions and whatnot kind of sprinkled in there, that cannot lead to good things if newbies get caught up in bogus claims and whatnot. That sours the experience before it even starts. So it's actually, I think, a good move that they brought it into the DigitalOcean Discord. DigitalOcean has been a long time. I don't know if it's been the entire time, but I think this is the 13th year. I should have checked that. I think DigitalOcean has been driving Hacktoberfest for most, if not all, its lifetime. And so by all appearances, DigitalOcean is still driving. And they have brought in Major League Hacking. You'll often see the MLH logo if you're into hackathons at all. As a partner, a co-sponsor, it isn't crystal clear, but both are listed as sponsors. And on the front page, right at the top, so they're listed first, same size font and whatnot. Everything else is under them. They're on the same line. And there are other community partners. You can see the About page at the Hacktoberfest.com website for all that. And the discussion and community have moved over to the DigitalOcean Discord server, which again, I think is probably a good idea given where the Hacktoberfest Discord server had ended up. This shouldn't matter so much as a practical matter. Hopefully the spam level drops towards 0. So I think a good thing. I posted a question there about where to find brand assets so I could make the cover art for today's episode. The cover art for today's episode is not meant to bowl anyone over. Just kind of gets the point. We're early. We're early in the game. Project Act needs a logo and other visual assets, among other things. So there you go. Plenty of opportunity there for non-code contributions. So I got the answer within, it was less than 12 hours. I know that. So they're attentive as the event approaches. So that's good, and not very spammy, which is also good. I have encountered the MLH folks, the Major League Hacking folks, in my travels when I was working with Intel at hackathons and whatnot. They're a good bunch, and they have been at this for a long time. I wonder if they will tune the experience at all in this first year being actively engaged. This might be a learning year. I'm not sure. We'll find out. I have mentioned previously I wasn't completely enamored with the way potential projects are located by newcomers to open source. I did at least one or maybe 2 different episodes a while, probably closer to October last year. But I've talked about this before, but this is a whole new year, so we can look optimistically ahead and see where things are going to go. Finding projects is a challenge. There are a few other issues about doing this sort of thing in this way for such a short period of time, but we will see, I think. I don't want to, every year is a new opportunity to try new things. So I think that's a positive. So wait, do you know what Hacktoberfest is, by the way? For the uninitiated, Hacktoberfest plays on the October naming scheme for month-long events. This one is focused on inviting newcomers to open source projects so they can all sort of enter the fray with expectations set accordingly. It's everybody kind of doing it at the same time, so everybody is on the same page, right? Hey, I'm new here. That's okay. A lot of people are. And with an encouraging environment and some infrastructure, like there are how-tos and a Discord server for people that are new to the whole thing to get them onboarded a little bit, finding projects along with some virtual prizes in the form of badges and some celebration and some other stuff. There might be real prizes. I think is there a t-shirt? I didn't really delve into this year's swag. The participation page at the Hacktoberfest site details low-code and non-code contributions, but it's quite a ways below the fold. I would like to see that get highlighted as a top-tier attractor. I've mentioned this countless times at this point, and again, not trying to be dismissive or denigrating. I just think it's something to take a real look at. Non-coders do not always feel welcomed implicitly for stuff like this. We ourselves, our organization, ran into that with our old name, Code for Vegas Foundation. And as we know, the world is made up of more than coders, and the challenges we face require more than code to address. So people that are just as capable, just as willing to and interested in contributing to the elevation of their communities or to solving of problems, especially on a volunteer basis, those people should not be turned away because they feel like they are not coders and thus not welcome. That is absolutely not the case. So I would like to see Hacktoberfest be an example of what that really means. And they, as I mentioned, they do point that out, but it's sort of like, oh, by the way, I think Hacktoberfest could be much more about contributing to open source projects, not so much about coding. And then, oh, by the way, you don't have to be a coder. My concerns about Hacktoberfest have been many, including discoverability. And there are a lot of reports. So you mark your repositories with the Hacktoberfest topic tag. So discoverability is a challenge and some limitations that you pretty much have to use GitHub and or GitLab, which rules some people out of participating with their projects if they're not using those. Maybe they're not using Git anything. Maybe it's not a code project at all. So that keeps some people out, not to mention the possibility for absolute chaos for the projects that sort to the top of any search results. And those are the two, if you can look in the two examples links I gave, the ones that show up at the top are more likely to get attention. So depending on the sort order, if you search on GitHub directly, I didn't do it this year, but last year, I'll do it when the Hacktoberfest starts, we'll see. But it was many, many thousands, tens of thousands of projects that were marked as Hacktoberfest, and not all of them were current. So some of them were in Hacktoberfest. The tag might have been put on there 5 years ago, and the repository has been dormant for 4 years, right? So the quest to find something that matches the potential contributors' skill set, interest, again, not just code. So it just seems like that discoverability gap has been there for a while, and it's something that Project Act aims to try to address in general. So we'll get to that in a second. And then the other fun thing, so when a project is marked for Hacktoberfest, and then it sorts to the top for any number of reasons, if it's sorted by like most recent change, and you get a lot of contributions as they're coming in, then you'll tend to be sorted to the top. If contributions are merged, so if your contribution ends up being made a part of the project, so repository in GitHub or Git parlance. So if that happens, then your project will be sorted to the top more frequently if that's the sort key is recent update. So that can be a challenge because you're going to be on that first page of search results, or you'll be in the top 10 or top 50 or whatever. So if there are tens of thousands of possibilities and the ones that sort to the first page get more attention, maybe that sort key is not the best sort key. And also, anecdotally, when you get a lot of contributions in the space of 30 days, and you are on the front page of the search results in the top some number, you're just going to get more submissions. So yeah, anecdotally, we've not had that problem, but anecdotally, it can be sort of stressful because you want to wrap up those merge requests or pull requests within the month so that the Hacktoberfest credit scheme can work for the contributor. You got to do 4 to get the big prizes. So we did not have any of our initiatives marked for participation in the last 2 years that I've signed up for this. I've been kind of looking around, seeing what's up. So I had looked around for things to contribute to, and I did find it daunting. And I sort of know my way around. I sort of know what I was looking for. But when you're looking for this sort of just the tag Hacktoberfest, it's like saying, give me, hey, I'm in Vegas, give me information about restaurants. You're going to get a lot of results. You're going to need to tune your search query a little bit. So let's see about Hacktoberfest 2025 then. First of all, I'm going to sign up again, which I have. The sign-ups opened on Monday, yesterday. I think I signed up around 9 or 10. Of course, there was a little first day snafus. So it took a little bit, but they fixed it, got it sorted pretty quickly. So not a big deal. Signed up, no problem. I will be interested to see what has changed for this year, if anything, and what MLH, Major League Hacking, brings to the table. I have to be honest, I did not contribute to other projects those previous years, the 2 previous iterations, partially because I wanted to see how it worked without adding to the chaos that I mentioned, right? So incoming pull requests, I didn't want to, it should be taken seriously, right? And partially because we have our own initiatives and projects to contribute to, so I kind of was hoping to see how it worked without stirring up trouble, but to see like how people were finding things and what the discussions around finding things were and so on. So those are just excuses for being lazy. Yeah, I know it sounds sort of weak, but this is my thinking. So there you go. This year, I will reach out to some projects that look like they might be leaning towards civic volunteerism or civic tech or similar, or maybe something else entirely. I'll poke around, see what's going on. I'll try those search tools I found. I'll see if there are any others, give them a whirl, give them a spin, as it were. So this will serve a dual purpose. So I can reach out to more orgs with similar goals as our organization. So civic volunteerism, civic tech, etc. There are some, the former brigade system, Not everybody has continued in the post Code for America world. There's still things coming together and so on. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So yeah, meeting other organizations that are kind of doing what we're doing, and then also seeing how Hacktoberfest is structured this year, see what's coming, what their plans are, what their thoughts are, and to see if people want to take a look at what Project Act aims to be. It may or may not be useful for Hacktoberfest, but it may be useful for other potential applications. So we'll get to that in a second. So about that scenario. So I produced a whole episode about this last year or so, and I alluded to it earlier in this episode. In a nutshell, I see two problems with the way Hacktoberfest is implemented. What do you call it? This is not criticism. It is hopefully constructive criticism. It's, it's, I'm not trying to bash Hacktoberfest. I'm making some thoughts known to possibly ponder. Projects are located on GitHub or GitLab through a topic tag scheme, which means anyone using, say, Codeberg or Gitty or ForgeJoe or any number of Bitbucket, several others, or their own deployment of some other tools. ForgeJoe, Codeberg uses ForgeJoe. So yeah, so if you're not using GitHub or GitLab, you may be sort of left out. Yes, GitHub and GitLab can host a repository mirror for the purposes of participation. So you could mirror your Git-oriented or whatever you're using. You can mirror it on GitHub and or GitLab for contributions during the Hacktoberfest window. But this is it sort of conflicts with the low-code and no-code participants. I don't know if they are thinking in terms of mirroring code repositories and other platforms and so on, or if they just have something they're working on. They might not have revision control of any kind, or maybe they're doing it a different way. If we consider that this may be the case on the maintainer side, it's something to consider, right? Hacktoberfest is two sides of a coin. People that are potentially contributing as a new or aspirational open source contributors, and then the people that are maintaining these various projects. This seems obscure, but maybe we can get around this on the GitHub, GitLab requirement. And, GitHub and GitLab are both partners of the Hacktoberfest event. So it's good for them, I suppose, but I'm concerned that it leaves some people out. Connecting an aspiring open source contributor, and it could be code or otherwise, to a project that matches them and vice versa, can be a chore, as I kind of alluded to. I don't want to sound like I'm harping on this again, so I'll simply say that last time I checked, there were thousands. I wrote thousands. There were thousands of projects on both platforms, GitHub and GitLab. GitLab didn't give an actual number. GitHub gives an actual number when you search for just Hacktoberfest topic. So it can be tricky to find one. And I said that just like my Vegas restaurant example, restaurant gives you a lot of results. And I suspect the popular or well-known projects might get more attention, which they tend to. It all depends on sorting. I had also seen quite a few topic tags on projects that did not appear to be active in any way last year or for years in some cases, as I mentioned. So I think these are two, I'm not going to say they're simple, but they're sort of low-hanging fruit. These are the places I would begin. Probably most of Hacktoberfest workflow is fine. So it's just sort of at the beginning of the journey, where to find things and how to find things. Or from the maintainer side, where to put things to be found and what to do when you are found, including trying to be found. So the idea with Project Act, at least a couple of parts of it, is to make any project or initiative with multiple component projects. So we have an initiative component project model that we're describing in Agile for Volunteers. It could be software or otherwise. It could be discoverable anywhere on the web. So these are the things that we're trying to address. But wait, doesn't Google do that already? Well, that is an even more difficult problem, trying to find a needle in an even larger stack of needles. The idea is to have anyone with a project or initiative or whatever open to participation in the Hacktoberfest program join in by placing one file in a well-known place, sort of like an RSS XML file. And if you don't know what that is, that's fine. and then telling, say, Hacktoberfest that file is there, and then they can index it, or someone else, or anyone can index it, right? It's not secret. It's not hidden away. We'll be using open standard stuff. So stuff that's been around for a while. If you're familiar with friend of a friend and description of a project, these are vocabularies for describing person relationships and projects. And then you can mix those together and have people working on projects. It's been done. So it's been around for a while. So this means you don't necessarily have to be using GitHub or GitLab. So anyone with a project open to participation puts that file in there. They tell Hacktoberfest, and then Hacktoberfest indexes it, and now it becomes searchable. Now, based on the information in those files, so that's one of the things that we can create, the ability to filter or sort on potential projects becomes a little bit more interesting. What goes in that file is a few things, like where the project is. It may be on a different website. So you could have a website for the project, but it could be kind of here's some information about it, and then the actual repository is somewhere else if there is one. It could be on GitHub or GitLab or any other similar platform, or eventually other platforms, including plain old websites without the infrastructure of GitHub and similar. And of course, URLs for the work that is open for Hacktoberfest contribution. So these could be issues, could be a description of what's open for contribution, etc. So the structure of that could be a little bit more open. Issues do work, but if you're not using something that has issues, then what? Where to file bugs or where to describe problems, how to contact the maintainers, and various other pieces of useful data. And this is, of course, aside from the fact that you can have links to what the project itself is, documentation, specifications, if there are any. You can have pointers to user stories if you're doing that method, agile style or similar. If you are, you can have a description of the actual contribution ask, so the open issue that can be addressed. And there's more. You can put keywords and tags and stuff as are available now. You'll find that you'll find that helpwanted.dev website does draw out the tags more and display them in the search results per issue. So that's good. And they actually do some AI summaries. So generative AI summaries, which could be useful, but it could also be a distraction. So that's something to think about. Once this file is located and indexed, modern use of machine language classifiers and other such tools could be used to better match with the aspiring open source contributor. Now, so I kind of just said you have to be careful with that. There's a difference between generating a description of something and trying to classify and match something. So if someone maintaining a project has described an issue, using generative AI to summarize that issue, it could get it wrong. But if you're using machine learning tools to classify the issue, so you're looking at the tags, you're looking at the description, you're looking at the overall project, you can tune how that works. And then you take a look at the potential contributor. You maybe have a little profile you fill out, like, what am I interested in? Coding or not coding or both. You may be able to take a textual description. That's very popular now. So rather than filling out a form, you basically say, here's what I'm interested in, or here's what I am able to do, or here's something I want to do. There's a lot of ideas on the table, and that's part of the reason we want to open this up for people to ponder. And by the way, Project Act is always going to be open, so it's not a special occasion for Hacktoberfest. It's just a way to dip the toe into the world and see what people think. And we would like to not depend on GitHub or GitLab. They're fine. They're fine platforms. They could, everything could always be improved or tweaked to suit one's individual needs and whatnot, but they're pretty solid. I've mentioned this before. Our Innovate for Vegas Foundation does have the team tier according to the GitHub for Nonprofits program. So we get these services for free. So thanks to GitHub for that. And but platform agnostic implementation for Hacktoberfest would, I believe, enable more participation across more types of projects and project management schemes, including none. Again, could be a website. So what are the use cases? There's no telling whether Project Act would actually be useful for Hacktoberfest in, say, 2026, since it would require an audience expansion of sorts beyond GitHub and GitLab, to be sure, and generally including projects and maintainers not necessarily using the pull request scheme. found on the Git-oriented platforms. By the way, pull requests are not technically a Git facility. That's a different topic, but so the general notion, and in fact how Hacktoberfest works, is you submit a pull request to the maintainer. If they accept it, you get, air quotes, credit for it. I mean, you get credit for it anyway, but that goes towards your 4 pull request goal for the Hacktoberfest month, and then fame and fortune will follow. So if you don't have a pull request scheme for your project, how do you contribute? Like, hey, we want to enable non-code, low code or non-code, especially non-code. There's a myriad, and if you read the GitHub article, I haven't read it recently, but I have read it. The take home is there are a myriad of things that if the world was run by software engineers, and some people think it might be lately, and that's not good, but you'd be missing out on the human aspect of some of the things that we're trying to accomplish, we being everybody doing this kind of thing. So really there needs to be a lot more availability and access for non-coders to say, hey, you know what? I'm a normal person and this doesn't work out in the world. And then what works at my computer works on my machine is the famous quote. So more, developing documentation, language translation, visualizations, accessibility concerns, making sure vision impaired, hearing impaired, people that don't speak English, maybe. So internationalization, localization. There's all kinds of things. Marketing, telling the story. What should the documentation look like? Example use cases. Testing, making sure it actually works. So there's a ton of things out there. So being more attractive to non-coders and then enabling them to participate with something other than a pull request scheme. So that's something we've been pondering a bit. And so, hey, why not open this up? Hopefully we will find out through the month of October, maybe get some idea what people think about if there is a possibility here. And then it'd be great if we get some contributions as well. There are various organizations which focus on vertical development projects and participants. My usual example is Girls Who Code. But any club or chapter which might benefit from an opt-in, maybe curated directory of all chapters or clubs, making use of modern tools and functioning without a dependence on a Git-related platform. So Girls Who Code, they might be using GitHub, I don't know. But any club or organization that has ongoing projects that people can contribute to in some way, they may not be using Git, but they may be using some other tools to bridge that gap, make them discoverable. So you can see there was a Google 20% project called All for Good. It generally indexed volunteer opportunities. And so something like that. But rather than being discovered, you would actually say, hey, we have this thing. You describe what you need and how people can participate and so on. So the usual way something like this is maintained is with a spreadsheet, manually updating a web page with links, like a list of here's the people in the club, or here are people that you can contact, or maybe using a WordPress plugin. It would be useful to find any pain points that might be addressable in this scheme. So here you're enabling automatic generation, you're enabling indexing and searching with opt-in structured data, if that makes sense. So you're not just saying, I'm looking for a restaurant. You're saying, I'm looking for a restaurant with a round table with 10 chairs that has so to be able to provide enough data to also enable the drilling down into these data to find something specific is one of the goals, so that you can say, hey, I would like to participate in something like this. Is there something like this in existence? And again, try Googling that stuff and you'll get... You might get an AI summary of something and you're like, this is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something specific. And I would simply say, good luck. The Project Act scheme was conceived, though, to connect civic volunteer organizations. So that's its sort of inspiration. To connect civic volunteer organizations in a post-brigade world. The Code for America brigade scheme had local brigades connected to each other through the Code for America infrastructure to reduce dependence on a central authority and to enable more detailed indexing and discovery. This was something left to sort of a slide deck style presentation of projects by different brigades in the old days. So there used to be brigades.codeforamerica.org, I think. And if you went there, you were basically looking at slide decks. And, oh, here's a project in Las Vegas. Here's a project in Los Angeles. Here's a project in Chicago. These were, well, they're not around anymore, so I'll say they were pretty bad. So slide decks are great for presentations. They're not the best way to provide information for searchability and so on. That's my experience with that. Adopting modernity to avoid spending volunteer time on discovery, focusing more on connection, communication, and collaboration is the baseline goal. Or maybe those are goals, plural, not sure. So rather than having one person that maintains the spreadsheet, and this is really the way some things work, like, oh, we need to update that thing. Oh, you're going to have to ask other person to update the spreadsheet. That's not a great way. I mean, it's simple, it gets you up and running, but it's not a great way to manage infrastructure. If that person goes away or if they're unavailable, life happens, then, oh, we can't update the spreadsheet until a person is back or has returned, or we need a new person. Oh, we need to figure out who has the spreadsheet. Where's the spreadsheet? It's on my hard drive. It's on a thumb drive in my desk. It's any number of things. So you kind of use the tools of modernity to stop spending time on that, make things more automated, searchable, all the technology we have at our disposal, at our fingertips, an embarrassment of riches, if you will. So let's see what does thinking outside the box mean here. Thinking outside the box is a good thing. I've included those two examples of search tools that have come on the scene with Help Wanted. It's a little bit older. I think I found it 6 months ago, maybe 6 or 7 or so. GitHub repos is newer. I actually saw that Hacktoberfest had reacted or commented or something on LinkedIn. Now, so here's one question is, how do you discover the discovery tools? Where would I go to find better search tools, especially oriented for Hacktoberfest? Now, I did try out GitHub repos. And by the way, if you visit the GitHub repos site, it says gitrepos.online is their title and stuff, but it's githubrepos.online, helpwanted.dev. There are probably others. In fact, I would almost guarantee there are others, and I kind of hope there are others, and I'm not going to denigrate the tools. Again, this is not a critique of the tools. They do what they're trying to do. I'm reminded of the pandemic days when everyone was recreating the BI dashboard from Johns Hopkins, to showcases, and other data. So you remember what was in those data sets. So data per day, per region, per whatever the things were. So all these little nice graphs and little multi-pane displays, dashboard style. And okay, very nice with tabs, and you could drill down and all that. Very nice, very nice. How many different variations on that theme did we need? Well, apparently more. Note that Help Wanted does some generative AI to compose summaries, but these two examples are fairly similar otherwise, so please do check them out. They may be useful. Having a toolbox with a lot of tools in it is not necessarily a bad thing by any means. So while presenting summaries in a sorted order with simple sort keys like time of last update or stars on GitHub or similar, I can't remember if GitLab does stars. Probably you kind of have to follow GitHub's lead on some things. These can have unintended consequences when you have sort keys like that. These seem useful, and there can still be an awful lot of results to comb through, which can make useful seem impressive at first and then not useful. Like, hey, look, it gives you 5,000 results out of 25,000 or something. Like, well, that's still 5,000. There's still, even if it's over 100 results, that's still a little bit tedious. Why? Because you have to click on them. You have to click on 100 different things to find out more information. So if the goal is to attract newcomers to open source contribution, this can be daunting. We have too many tools at our disposal to enable opt-in steering of initiatives, projects, repositories, and issues to more flexible ways, steering them to more flexible ways to connect with potential contributors. We're basically saying, here's a subset of too many. Good luck. I think we can do better. Like building a more useful matching scheme and providing more control over ordering and information presentation. honestly, the person searching should see maybe 10 results, not hundreds, certainly not thousands, and they should be great matches with potential. They should be 10 things that go, wow, these look like they match what I'm looking for really well. Now, this would be without the benefit of billions of dollars of resources available to tune search algorithms. The MapReduce and big table days are behind us, but we can use the tools at our disposal, machine learning, to categorize and classify things, and to make use of what do you call it, vector database lookups and potential matches and so on. So there's room for creativity here, and why not use it to build meta tools, not the company, but tools about finding things, search tools about searching for things, about open source projects. So an open source project about searching for open source projects to work on, something like that. The entire scheme has a few moving parts. So to manage the structured data files for crawling and capture, so there's like a spider thing, the triple database. So we're presuming triples, RDF style. If you visited schema.org, or if you're familiar, like what I said earlier, the FOF and DOPE, RSS 2.0 is based on XML. RSS 1.0, RDF site summaries, was based on triples. So arguably a more interesting way to go. If you're using the Fediverse, that's using activity streams and activity pub. Activity streams uses triple data. So the spider to crawl this stuff, so the crawling and then the capture and the notifications if there are any bugs or issues, and of course the search tools for solid discovery possibilities. Building a search based on classification of the searcher based on some information that they can provide up front that's more than just search keywords. So a little bit about themselves. It's almost like the job search problem or the dating problem. If you were looking for a job and all you could type was, I'm looking for coding jobs, well, nowadays you might not get any, but you're going to get a collection of search results that you then have to drill down through. If you can match your entire resume or CV, if you prefer, against jobs and do that in an automated fashion, and that's what jobs like, sites like Indeed.com, and there are some others, they will, LinkedIn is doing this too now. They will try to match your background and your network of connected people and the things that they know, and where, they'll try to use a lot more input signals to match you to jobs and vice versa. So the ability to conduct a nuanced search and get more meaningful search results is the goal, just as it is there. And of course, dating, you can apply all the same things, different ways. Maybe not using the network. That depends. Anyway, so there's a variety of ways to match people with things they're interested in. If you remember, Netflix had a big challenge to try to match viewers to movie suggestions. I think they had $1 million prize for that. It was a while ago. So the few moving parts, there are opportunities, not to mention the documentation and the visual presentation and so on. So this is about explicit connection using opt-in data managed by the thing that wants to be found. So the maintainer, or it could be an automated tool or something, or a combination. In this new AI era, we're coming to the end. You can tell this approach may seem like an odd idea that we will have some manual steps in there. We will see if the SERP, the search engine result page, is more useful than an AI-generated summary of what you are looking for rather than matches that you are actually looking for. So let's see if this works out. So let me, for example, I'm going to go look on Google right now. I'm going to search for, so google.com. You may have a search engine that you prefer. Maybe you're going to look it up in ChatGPT. Who knows if that would be useful. Hacktoberfest, Python project, civic tech. How about that? So the first thing it's going to do is generate an AI overview. It gives me some organization, GitHub, so Civic Tech DC. Okay, very interesting. Not sure if that's for Hacktoberfest. So for Hacktoberfest, you can contribute to Python-based civic tech projects hosted by organizations like Code for America. No. Code for All. Maybe that's an international thing. And local brigades. No, can't do that anymore. To find these projects, search on GitHub or for relevant keywords. So they're basically saying, good luck. And it goes through. So SF Civic Tech, which was formerly Code for San Francisco, is one of the suggestions. Okay, that's interesting. No idea if they're working with Hacktoberfest. Civic Data Lab, maybe. Democracy Lab, no, that's more of a search engine. Code for Dayton is a former brigade. Don't even know if they're still in business. They don't give you links, so you're kind of on your own. Code for America, again, no longer has brigades. So this AI summary is AI slop. It's not very useful. So this is essentially telling you you've got your work cut out for you, and it gives you a bunch of old information and so on. So there you go. If I want to find a particular thing, I need better input signals, and I need to have a search engine that is purpose-built. So an index and a searching mechanism that is purpose-built to match what I'm trying to find with what's out there. And by the way, if I looked on, so let's just do it real quick here. And again, I'm not trying to be mean. This is how you, oh, do they have a Hacktoberfest 2025 topic? Oh, okay. There's a Hacktoberfest 2025 topic with 67 public repositories, but they don't, the advice and documentation for Hacktoberfest say that you're using the Hacktoberfest topic tag. And there are 141,375 public repositories matching this topic. So you can drill down, you can try to, and you can select a language. You can select by the number of stars to sort most stars. You can do most forks. You can do recently updated. Forks imply pull requests. So, useful, but not sufficient, my opinion. So there you go. The Hacktoberfest topic tag has some room for hackery. And to be honest, this is an opportunity to say, hey, maybe there are other ways to approach this thing. And that should ideally be what the hackathon mindset, the Hacktoberfest mindset might be that, hey, this could be easier if, fill in the blank. So we'll see what happens. Now we have less than 2 weeks to get ready. So the projectact.info website has been sitting there with basically a coming soon landing page. So we got to tune that up a little bit. Then we got to update some documentation, and we got to create, there's probably going to be an editor, like an automated file builder, and the interface to, or like the visualization of search results, and then the maybe an API would be useful. So there are a couple of parts. It depends on what people want to try to work on. So we'll try to make as much of Project Act available for Hacktoberfest, but it will be always available. So ideally, it will be a project that will benefit anyone who contributes to it. Maybe it will do something that they've been needing to do for their projects to connect with other potential collaborators. And it might work for Hacktoberfest for next year. We'll see. And there could be utility found in this that I have not thought of, that will come from somebody else contributing and saying, hey, we could use this for this other thing. So that's part of the beauty of open source and this whole methodology. And not to mention language translation, testing, a logo, maybe even the design for the website. Projectact.info is intended to be fairly minimalist, but and it's certainly that. So on that note, I will leave you. Thank you for listening to this episode, of course. We're looking forward to Hacktoberfest this year and seeing where it's headed. And maybe we can be a part of that in some small way. But Project Act itself would be a lovely thing as an experiment. It's always good when something you've had in your mind, I wonder if this would work. Even if you find out it doesn't, at least And you'll never know if you don't check. You got to try. You can't win if you don't play, as they say. So on that note, I thank you for listening again. And don't forget to check out innovateforvegas.org if you're interested in participating in civic volunteer efforts in the greater Vegas area, or even if you are somewhere else. You do not need to be in Las Vegas to innovate for Vegas. There you go. Don't forget our weekly virtual meetups, Monday and Tuesday each week, unless they're canceled. That's what the calendar is for. So you'll never not know. Visit our site, innovateforvegas.org, innovateforvegas.foundation. They're cross-linked. You just need to know innovateforvegas.org. That's enough to get you started. We're on all the usual social media, not Twitter, but Blue Sky, Blue Sky, Mastodon, GitHub, of course, LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn page. Those links are, guess where? Innovateforvegas.org. All right. Take care. Thank you for listening. As always, we'll catch you next week and maybe during Hacktoberfest.